Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would review this little video that I found to be very particularly interesting. And this is going to be a video, of course, talking about the next possible undisputed fight that could potentially happen for Mr. Terence Bud Crawford. And of course, for those of you that did not most recently watch the fight, which I'm sure most of you have heard the news by now, Mr. Terence Bud Crawford was able to deliver an all-time great dominant performance against that of Mr. Errol Spence Jr. I'm not really surprised that he won the fight. I am a little bit surprised and shocked at how he won the fight quite so dominantly. But, it is what it is. You have to give a great round of applause for Mr. Terence Bud Crawford. And he finally showed, at least in my personal view, that at the moment he would be the clear number one pound for pound fighter. Well, it's very possible that Terence Bud Crawford can even potentially add a little bit more to his resume and add to his greatness if he becomes a third-time undisputed champion at that of the 154-pound weight division, which in my view is very, very entirely possible because when I just take a look at the fighters there's no one really there in my personal view that's going to actually be able to compete with Crawford's level of actual skills, just in my personal view, and that includes Mr. Jamel Charlo. And Jamel Charlo, of course, he has a very tough task ahead of him anyway against Mr. Saul Canelo Alvarez, and I'm not really quite sure how that fight's going to end up for him. I do not predict him to win that fight. Of course, with certain fights, the way that they've been happening this year, who the hell knows? And Canelo Alvarez, he has not really looked the same his past couple of fights, but I still expect Canelo Alvarez to pull out a semi-dominant performance, at least at a minimum 8 rounds to 4. I could be wrong about that. More than likely, if Canelo shows up in very good shape, I predict him probably to win that fight around 11 rounds to 1. But Canelo Alvarez would need to show up in very good shape. And to be honest with you, his past few fights, he's looked like he's lost a step or two. So we'll see what ends up happening. But, after the Canelo Alvarez fight, whatever may be left of Mr. Jamel Charlo, if he doesn't get too badly beat up in that fight, there is a very big possibility that he'll get the fight with Mr. Terence Bud Crawford. Of course, I'm going to talk about the potentiality of this fight and what fights I would like to see next for both Mr. Terence Bud Crawford and that of Errol Spence Jr. Let's get straight into it. For those of you that do not know, Terence Bud Crawford wins, I believe, to the neutral corner, and he told Jamel Charlo, the one at 154, suck my dick. He said it repeatedly, and you know what? I personally don't blame Mr. Terence Bud Crawford. Like I was reviewing a lot of Boxing Ego videos where he was calling Terence Bud Crawford sensitive for, kind of criticizing certain people that were going against him. Well, listen, not only is that Terence Bud Crawford's right to, criticize people who went against him or say, see, I proved you wrong. But on top of that, he certainly has the right to react in that way, especially when the Charlo brothers, man, and there's no offense against them, but they just talk way too fucking much. It just is what it is. And the Charlo brothers, I always like them. But at the end of the day, for the limited fighters that they truly are, they sure talk a lot of shit. And I understand that Jamel Charlo, that, he's the undisputed champion at 154. I've always said this. I've never really been personally that impressed with the 154-pound run. Just never have been. I mean, who really was there? Who did you really beat to get those titles? On top of that, with your runs, you should have lost that first fight to Brian Castano. Second of all, you lost to Tony Harrison, a dude that was known for getting knocked out in every championship level fight, and you got beat by him, and you almost got beat by him in the rematch. So it is what it is. Just in my personal view, I've never really been that impressed with Jamel Charlo. Just in my personal view, I think that he's a very good fighter. I do believe that he is an A-grade level fighter, and I do have to give him a lot of props. He did show up to win in both of those rematches, and he showed that he had the better boxing IQ and the better mental and physical fortitude than both of those fighters. But is he going to be able to show that same thing once he finally gets in the ring with someone that is an exceptional level boxer, like that of a Terence Bud Crawford or an Errol Spence Jr. or a Canelo Alvarez? I highly doubt it, and I could be wrong. And Jermell Charlo, he does have great power, so he always has a puncher's chance, but would I see him beating the best versions of any of those fighters? No. Dude, just imagine being Jermell Charlo, because him and Errol Spence, of course, they're very good friends with each other. Imagine overall looking at your best friend. You have to sit ringside. You know, you're supporting your best friend, Errol Spence Jr. Biggest fight of the past 10 years, at least allegedly. Your friend is getting his ass canned in that fight. And then overall the man says, suck my dick multiple times, and you can't do anything about it. Jamel Charlo must have been furious.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Look, I can't wait to see you September 30th right back here in Vegas.
Hey, and I want to let everybody know, at 154, I ain't done yet. But I'm up here for to go capture a crown.
Yeah.
Floyd was able to move up and down. He did a great job. Shout out to him. But, hey, it's my turn now.
Yeah, Charlo, I hate to tell you this, man. You're not Floyd Mayweather Jr. Like I said, the only possible slight margin of a way that I see Canelo Alvarez losing that fight is if Canelo Alvarez isn't anywhere even near the same fighter that I even seen him last fight. That's the only way that I see Canelo Alvarez losing that fight, is if he is a completely shot fighter. There is no other way. Because to be quite honest with you, I've already seen Canelo Alvarez beat better fighters than that of Jermell Charlo. And if we're really going to go there, John Ryder, at least if Canelo Alvarez shows up in good form, John Ryder was probably a tougher fight for that of Canelo Alvarez. Because once again, I'm just not that impressed with Jermell Charlo. I never have been. I think that he's powerful, and I think that he is decently skilled. But at the end of the day, he's not someone that is exceptionally skilled. I've just never seen it. And when I say exceptionally skilled, I'm not talking about someone that, is just very good. I'm talking about the creme de la creme. I'm talking about Usyk. I'm talking about Crawford, Fury, Inoue, Spence, at least from what it seemed. Now I'm not quite sure if I can say that he's up there with those guys the way after he looked. But I'm talking about those level of fighters. Is Jermell Charlo really an exceptionally skilled fighter? I don't think that either Charlo brother has really ever been exceptional. I think that they've always been very good to borderline great, but exceptional? Never seen it.
Jamel.
And of course, how could I forget Mr. Canelo Alvarez, a very exceptional fighter as well?
Charlo, you'll see him September 30th on Showtime pay-per-view. Thank you, champ.
Yes, sir. Say, Vegas, y'all know we had a good time, you did. We all Vegas. Hey, good fight to both of them. Omaha and Texas, we put it down.
That was the undisputed champion Jamel Charlo reacting to Terence Crawford becoming a 2 times undisputed champion by knocking out his teammate Errol Spence.
Look at Errol Spence Jr.'s face right there. That man got his ass whooped, like I said, and I'm not trying to, pour gas on the fire or, trying to beat a dead horse here or anything like that. I'm not trying to make Errol feel bad or anything like that or anyone feel bad, but goddamn, man. Like I said, this was one of the worst ass kickings that I can remember in terms of a really, really, really big fight. It was worse than Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. At least in terms of the third match. I mean, shit, even Deontay Wilder got some knockdown. Spence, man, he was not looking good in this fight at all.
Jamel Charlo said it was a good fight by both men, and he let it be known.
No, it wasn't really a good fight by both men. But, I respect what Charlo had to say once again because, Spence is his boy. I understand. But no, it was not a good fight by both men. It was a great fight by Terence Crawford. And just to be brutally honest, which I usually am in my analyzations, it was a piss poor performance by that of Errol Spence Jr. There's nothing really much else to be said. Now, whether you want to say, because Errol Spence didn't look the same, or maybe Terence was just that great, maybe a little bit of both, that's up to you. In my personal view, Terence was just probably that great because this is now probably the third time where I thought that, maybe there was the potential of the fight to be a little bit competitive in Terence Crawford's career. and it wasn't really super duper competitive, or at least it ended up in a way that I was like, wow, he looked a little bit more dominant than what I thought he was going to.
That he will be staying at 154 pounds after the Canelo Alvarez fight in order to defend his undisputed title, which is great news for Crawford because that's the fight Crawford wants next. And that's the fight we all want to see.
I hope that Canelo Alvarez doesn't literally batter Jermell Charlo to the degree to where he's not the same fighter ever again. Because I would like to see Terence Bud Crawford get a lot of credit if he does beat Jamel Charlo, which more than likely he will. Because once again, Jamel Charlo, he's not on Terence Bud Crawford's level, even with the size advantage. He just isn't. Hopefully there is still a little bit left of Mr. Jamel Charlo after that Canelo Alvarez fight.
Now, don't get it twisted. Charlo has a huge task ahead of him against Canelo Alvarez since he is moving up 2 weight divisions to fight Canelo. He's daring to be great by moving up 14 pounds in order to make the fight happen. However, I did tell you guys before that I truly believe the Canelo Alvarez fight is a less difficult fight for Charlo than Crawford, despite the fact that...
Yes, of course you would say that because you're an idiot. It is what it is. But these guys have been trying to promote that about Canelo Alvarez for a very long time. What the Canelo versus Jamel Charlo fight really is a lot like the Gervonta Tank Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz fight, except probably in just bigger proportion and with Canelo being slightly bigger. Jamel Charlo is around 5'11", 6 foot. Canelo Alvarez is around 5'8", 5'9". Now Canelo clearly is going to be stockier when it comes down to it, and he's going to have more muscle mass. But Canelo really is not a natural 168 pounder. He's a natural 160 pounder. It was a lot like that of the Leo Santa Cruz versus Gervonta Tank Davis fight, where it was against a guy that at the time was looked at as a very decent challenge with Leo Santa Cruz, a guy with only one loss. But at the end of the day, taking a look at it in hindsight, and I always predicted this as well, Leo Santa Cruz was not really going to have the size nor power nor the skill set to really challenge that of Gervonta Tank Davis. And more than likely, I'm not quite sure whether Canelo's going to knock out Charlo or not. Because once again, he doesn't look the same to me, but he's gonna have a very good potential to do so. Because Canelo Alvarez, he still has that power.
Crawford is 3 divisions smaller than Canelo. That's how good Crawford is. Don't let Crawford fool you, because he fights to the level of his opposition.
And Terence Bud Crawford might be another one of these fighters that retire undefeated. Ever since the Floyd Mayweather Jr. era, you have a lot of fighters now that are retiring much more undefeated than any other generation. And I'm not talking about just, certain boxers that didn't matter. I'm talking about boxers that had Hall of Fame level careers, like Andre Ward, Tyson Fury, Terence Bud Crawford, maybe even the Oya Inoue. Like, all those fighters have a legitimate chance of retiring undefeated within their careers. That's how good those fighters are. That's just the level of impact that Floyd Mayweather Jr. had within his career, that he was so great, especially with the undefeated record, that now fighters, especially a lot of these black American fighters especially, when they receive a loss, it really, in their mind, depreciates a lot of their value. And to a degree, it probably does. But that's why, in my certain view, certain fights have not been happening, because a lot of people, they're so afraid to lose their 0 or afraid to lose their O, because they believe that the ultimate goal is to reach that Floyd Mayweather Jr. goal. Just in my personal view, on top of that, you have the most amount of belts that there probably ever has been in history. Or maybe I'm wrong about that with all these fucking regular and, interim titles when it comes down to it, that a lot of these guys, they can win a belt almost in any type of fight.
See, Crawford is just like Goku.
So basically the point is, why would you want to fight a bigger threat when maybe you can get a decent amount of recognition without even fighting that main threat guy, or a guy that maybe you don't want to get in the ring with him yet? So,
I'm convinced that Crawford is a saint. He only turns super...
And let me also state this. By no way am I saying that Floyd Mayweather Jr. ducked opponents. I thought that he had one of the greatest resumes ever, and he fought a lot of great champions. I do not believe that Floyd Mayweather Jr. was a cherry picker. Let me state that now, because I know I'm going to get certain people in the comment section saying, yeah, man, you talk, you speak it. Floyd Mayweather was, one of the biggest duckers of all time. I never personally agreed with that statement. But anyway.
Saying, if he has to. Just like Goku, he's not gonna turn Super Saiyan just because you have to push him to turn Super Saiyan. For example, when Crawford fought Mean Machine, Crawford fought Mean Machine at his base level. But then when he fought Sean Porter, he turned Super Saiyan. However,
Yes, Terence Crawford, and what that is called in boxing is, of course, adjusting to the level of your competition. And Terence Crawford clearly, and very intelligently, knew that Errol Spence was going to be the biggest threat of his career. If there's maybe one thing that I would have recommended to Errol Spence, it would have been to take a tune-up or take a fight right before you take on Crawford, maybe Keith Thurman or somebody else, because that's over 400-day layoff. I believe it probably did impact him just a little bit. But at the end of the day, man, you signed the contract. And do I believe that he got his ass whooped that bad because of that? No.
when he fought Errol Spence, notice how Crawford off the bat, he came in as a southpaw. Usually Crawford will fight orthodox, then as the fight goes on, he will go Super Saiyan by turning southpaw. However, when Crawford fought Errol Spence, he turned Ultra Instinct off the bat. He came in as a southpaw. That's what I mean Crawford fights to the level of his opposition.
Yes, many people do. He's right up there with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury does a very similar thing, where Tyson Fury, he may look not as good against lower tier opponents like that of Otto Wallin, or at times, some other fighters in his career, Steve Cunningham. But against Deontay Wilder and Vladimir Klitschko, he showed out.
When he fought Errol Spence, the toughest fight of his career, pound for pound number 2. Crawford came into the fight.
I didn't have Errol Spence pound for pound number 2. But the reason why they have Errol Spence pound for pound number 2, and I'm not saying that it's not debatable necessarily, I just don't think that you can be pound for pound number 2 when you have fighters like Canelo and Usyk and other fighters like that out there. Fury, I don't think you can really argue that. But the reason why they tried to put him in number 2 is because whoever was going to win this fight, they could say, see, they beat one of the top 2 pound for pound fighters in the world. So they have to completely stay at that number 1 pound for pound spot, and there's no debate about it. That way, they can try to even further claim that Inoue or Fury or Usyk or any one of those boys that is not a black American fighter that is going to try to creep up that list, so they can already have an excuse ready to say why they don't deserve to be on that level. So they can bitch, moan, and complain about, why they're so overhyped and, why they don't deserve to be there, blah, blah, blah. That's the reason why they put him there anyway.
Unlocking a new level.
And let me put this. The only fighters that I could potentially see surpassing Terence Crawford's spot, maybe Usyk, maybe Inoue, possibly Canelo Alvarez, if he's actually able to get back on the horse and, beat David Benavidez, and then on top of that, win, a rematch against Dimitri Bivol or something like that. Do I see that happening? Probably not. At least not beating Dimitri Bivol. So the 2 fighters that probably would have the best chance probably either be Inoue or Usyk, because if Usyk is actually able to beat Tyson Fury, then, that could be something that is a very big win for him. And then Mr. Inoue, depending on what he does, he probably is going to become unified later on this year. Because I've seen that other fighter, whatever his name is, I believe the Filipino fighter, he is nowhere near on the same level as Inoue. As long as Inoue takes that fight seriously, he will win that fight. And who knows, he'll probably go up another 1 or 2 weight divisions, and he'll probably be very dominant there as well. So we'll see.
He broke his limit, unlocking Ultra Instinct Super Saiyan.
Let me state this actually about Inoue really quick. That guy actually might have the potential to become a 6 to 7 weight division champion. Like, if there's any guy that actually could potentially break Manny Pacquiao's record of the most weight classes, it might be Inoue. Now, do I think that he's going to do it? Probably not. But if he ended up becoming a 6 or 7 weight division champion, let me just state this. I wouldn't be totally shocked. Because I do think that he would have the potential to even go up to 126 and become a champion there, even though it would be stretching it a little bit. And then the next weight class after that would be 130. That might be a little bit too much, to be quite honest with you, because then you got fighters like Oscar Valdez and certain other ones That might be a bit too much. But, let me just state this. If anyway won a fight there, I wouldn't be shell-shocked. But that would probably be a bit too much in my view.
This fight was...
And when Manny Pacquiao was moving up the weight classes, let's also be real, he probably had a little bit of extra help. And, for those of you that get what I'm saying.
It's like Goku versus Jiren. The only difference is, unlike Goku, Crawford unlocked Ultra Instinct and mastered it in training before the fight even began. He transformed to that level as soon as the fight began. That's why Crawford came in as a southpaw right away and turned the fight of the...
Terence Bud Crawford turned into Black Frieza overall for that. For those of you, of course, that don't know Dragon Ball Z, which AKHi TV is referencing, Black Frieza, or Frieza, who once upon a time was the conqueror, who tried to conquer that of the Saiyans. Eventually he got defeated by Goku, I believe, a couple of times. Then he went into his next evolution, the Gold Frieza, and then I believe now his most current one, which hasn't even reached the show yet, Black Frieza. Apparently he has transformed even more powerful than that of Goku or Vegeta, and possibly even more than Beerus or something. But some of you probably ain't even going to know what the hell I'm talking about. But Terence Bud Crawford, man, he went into his Black Frieza form in this fight, man. He was phenomenal.
Decade into the beatdown of the decade. See, Errol Spence is a great fighter. He was pound for pound.
Like Terence Bud Crawford, the type of performance that he had in this fight, it truly makes you think like, wow, he could potentially go up to 160 and maybe give Canelo Alvarez a very tough fight or potentially win that fight. That's how good this performance was.
Two, when Crawford fought him. However, Crawford is not just a great fighter. He's not just elite, but more so, he's an all-time great. Top 5 to top 10. Easy. Nevertheless, while Crawford...
Well, if you're talking about all-time, I'm not quite sure if I can say that he's top 5 to top 10 all-time. Because when you talk about those level of fighters, they have a very extensive resume, and they have a little bit of more greater wins in their career. Now, I'll say this. If Terence Bud Crawford ended up, unifying against Jamel Charlo, I would really have to start having a conversation. And I think that he will, to be honest with you. I think that I would have to start really having a conversation of him being within my top 20 of all time. Now, what would he have to do to be within my top 10 of all time? I'm not really so sure about that. I would have to see. The problem is that I just don't think many other fighters at the 154-pound weight division, and possibly even if he moved up to 160, I'm just not sure if a lot of those fighters are really going to majorly challenge him, in my view. Just in my personal view. And I'm not really quite sure if I see Terence Bud Crawford going up much more than that of 154. So, we'll see.
Savagely knocked down Errol.
A fight that I would really love to see, actually, if Terence Bud Crawford decides to go up to 154 next, a fight that I would really love to see is him and Tim Tszyu. That'd be very interesting. And Tim Tszyu, for those of you that know me, I don't really think Tim Tszyu is, all that in a bag of chips, really. But he would be the bigger fighter. He's got punching power. He's got a little bit of technicality, to him, and it'd be an interesting introduction.
Spence, he called out Jamel Charlo in the corner. That was the most savage call out we have seen in a while.
I agree with that. He whipped his best friend's ass, overall, and then he said, "Suck my dick," and then he called his ass out. I agree. That was a pretty savage call out.
Crawford called out Charlo. He was talking trash while knocking down Errol Spence. Then he went back to finish Errol Spence, Charlo teammate, just to go back and call Charlo out again. So we shall see how this is going to play out. Charlo has a tough task ahead of him in Canelo Alvarez. He can't overlook Canelo, of course. On the other hand, Crawford has the Errol Spence rematch that would take place before the end of the year. But I don't think Errol Spence should activate the rematch clause. I mean, Crawford...
I really hope overall that Errol Spence Jr. really does not activate the rematch clause. In many other sports, you can kind of do rematches a little bit more instantly, although, of course, that doesn't usually happen because boxing and UFC, those are the only sports where you can kind of get it signed up, against a specific opponent even 3 times in a row if you truly wanted to. I really hope that Errol Spence doesn't take the rematch, at least at the current moment in time. But Errol Spence, in his mind, may feel that he has no choice because it's not like Terence Bud Crawford is young. He's 35 years old. So he may not be around for much longer. We'll see. If I had to guess, more than likely Errol Spence is going to instate the rematch
Crawford
clause.
has his number.
He is going to reinstate the rematch clause. Do I think that it's the best thing for him? No. He got really badly beat up. And trust me, if you get really badly beat up in a rematch, which more than likely, in my view, he's going to, because I've never seen a match in that type of fashion where you got your ass kicked so badly and then you came back and you actually made it super competitive. I've never seen it happen. Never. Just in my personal view. Unless I'm forgetting the fight. So like I said, well, we'll see what happens, man. But I hope for Errol Spence's sake that he does not take the Errol Spence Jr. fight next. Maybe Virgil Ortiz. I'm hearing rumors of Jose Ramirez. Maybe another fighter, Keith Thurman. Stay away from Crawford at least for about a year.
All around the board. Actually, I prefer to see Errol Spence fight Keith Thurman or Jose Benavidez as a tune-up fight. On the other hand, Crawford could fight his mandatories at 147 until the time is right to move up to 154 and fight Jamel Charlo for undisputed or the win.
Terence Crawford and Jermell Charlo. I keep hearing rumors that that fight is potentially possible as well. That would be a great fight because Jermell Charlo, he is the new threat. But if you're Jermell Charlo, that might be a very tough fight. And, before then, I may have actually, I'm not going to say favored Jermell Charlo, but it would have been probably 50-50. After the performance that I just seen Terence Crawford have and the type of power that he's shown, just the level of experience that Terence Crawford has, I'd probably have to go with Terence Crawford. And if Jermell Charlo loses in a very bad way in that fight, it's not going to go down like some of the other ones. Like, it's not going to go down like how Canelo came back overall against, that when he lost to Floyd Mayweather Jr., where, the young and up-and-coming boxing genius lost to the old maestro. It's not going to go down like that. Terence Crawford is going to hurt you very, very badly.
Out of Charlo versus Tim Tszyu. With that being said, drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe below. And to be continued on the next episode of it.
Anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. I just thought that I would talk about that. Thought that it was very particularly interesting. I do believe that Terence Crawford and Jamel Charlo, or whoever is going to be the unified champion of that weight division, they're pretty much going to be on a collision course. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. I just thought that I would talk about that. We'll see what happens. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.